for instance, in that adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, she of course chose the yellow brick road as a visual aid of guiding the children through the different rooms of this performance. And then she didn't have to say every time, no, 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 go here, go there. It's like, follow the yellow brick road. And then they of course made a song of it. And of course then there's aid in the way you actually wrote your script, instead of having to be an authority. So it's included or inscribed in the concept of the performance.
But it sounds like, to a certain degree, writing for something that is meant to be interactive has to have elements of devising to it.
Of course, I think it sounds like a good idea. I haven't tried it otherwise, so I don't know. But it sounds like devising is a central term, and I think it's fruitful.
We were talking about ethics, and you were just saying, you need to perhaps get hold of a group of children and test out your material. But then I think you enter into another ethical question, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Because you're testing unfinished material. You're testing something you don't know how they're going to react to it.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
I haven't actually been so concerned with that part of it. Like, well, if we say that this is a rehearsal, we don't know. But of course it demands a good dialogue with the teachers, and it demands that you take your time afterwards. And I think this is, and also that you actually are interested in listening to what they have to say. For many times, or I've seen in our projects, that you get children in, you do it for your own work, and then it's like, oh no, you have to go because we have to talk. And then they actually experience something, but you need skills and knowledge to get out of them. What actually did you react to? Why do you want it this way? How do you think about that? And that's actually a field of its own, methodologically speaking. So you, I think, as an artist, when you invite children in, you also sort of have to take seriously that they have things they want to say to you. And that can be a challenge. Also because it's not always easy to actually hear what they're saying, because if they say, I didn't understand it, what does that mean? And my experience is that it's easy for artists and also for people involved in the projects to say, well, they were too young, they were too many, we had a bad day, instead of actually thinking, okay, you didn't understand. What does that mean? How do we deal with that? What do we have to do? And as long as you are interested in maintaining sort of a real dialogue and an honest dialogue with the children, you're within an ethical safe zone, sort of. But of course there's always the unforeseen.
When you're creating a show that contains interactivity of some sort, do you need to think specifically about how to include adults in that setting, how to include the teachers, the parents?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think to a certain degree, or I think you actually do. And it's depending, of course, whether you're making a family performance, which the Wizard of Oz was for families, or in a school, which another one called Candicia is, and where the children are invited in as participants in a sort of playing sphere, actually. And the children and teachers are invited also, but they sit on the outskirts of the performance. And there will always, for instance, be the possibility that somebody gets hurt or cries or feels left out, even though you've prepared for everything. And then, for instance, the teacher could be a good person to be like a safe harbor. So you can give the teacher a role within the performance. But there's also that of getting past the adult control. And I know in Norway several performances have actually been for children only. Or not several, a few performances have been shows where the teachers are left out. And that creates a special environment. It's secret. The teachers aren't allowed to see, and only the children are invited in. This was also a case I just heard about, the Australian company Polyglot, where they made different routes for the children and for the adults. And at times the adults would look at the children and they saw their children in a new light doing different things, and then the children will look at the adults. So it's also something that you can explore artistically. What are the opportunities in this balance of being who's in charge in sort of a Bakhtinian carnivalesque way? There's a possibility of turning the world upside down. That theatre has. Yeah.
It's fascinating. To hear about this. I mean, again, just as we've been talking so much about safety, again, the safety aspect of that strikes me. You know, if you are going to take responsibility for a huge group of kids and take them away from their parents or away from their teachers, you are taking on a lot of responsibility as a theatre artist.
Yes.
And I guess you have to be prepared to accept that responsibility in that case.
Yes, and I think within the institutional sphere, this is very, what should I say, forward. This is quite an important part of the theatre's mentality, sort of. There are technicians there, that there are fire escapes, everything is in order. But for the independent artists, I don't think this question is thought of that often or that thoroughly, but this is my presumption. I might be wrong. But for instance, in the Brage Theatre, where The Wizard of Oz was made, what did you call it? Health and safety?
Yes.
Rules for health and safety were they're very strict. And the yellow brick road had to be this and this broad so that there was room for all the children, and the director was very well aware of this, so she worked her performance into these restricted rules. So it is important. As a drama education person, I'm also, or myself, I've been more concerned with the ethics of actually making children share their stories, their experiences. How do you meet children if they say, I know about this, or this happened to me, or I don't want to play? So there are different, that's also a level. How do you meet children when you actually invite them in? Not only physically, but mentally. And you say, I'm interested in you. How do you keep that treasure they give you safe and guarded? So there's a physical and also a mental keeping, sort of.